SG, I thought, I won't do justice to this. And I would like to reserve a conversation on that, because you also asked me to draw on my own experience, having worked where I worked. So I would like to have a separate platform on a different day, because 1 hour is not enough to cover everything. So I will conclude with 3 challenges that I believe that you must be aware of when it comes to leadership. I mean, I've said all the other things, but 3 challenges at the end. The first challenge is that every level has got its own devil. I'm sure some of you have heard me talk about that. The higher you go, the new devil emerges. You know, when you grow up black in this country, especially those of us who grew up in apartheid and went through homeland and all of that, you learn to fight. And you know, as you go up the management positions, I thought I've got all the weapons, I know how to fight. But I learned that as you go up, the devil changes. The nature of the devil changes. The higher you rise, the more powerful and tireless your enemies become. And the mistake many make is assuming that leadership gets easier as you go up. That once you reach a certain level, you'll be immune from criticism, that your victories will silence your detractors. I mean, I made sure, you know, I had every credential in the book until I retired. I mean, I was a rated scientist. I was a B1 rated scientist until last year, June. And you don't need to when you're a manager. And your rating expires every 5 years. If you don't do research, if you apply, you don't get it. And I continued doing research, I continued publishing, and I applied, and it went for international review, and I got it. And my rating kept going up. But you know what I was trying to do? I was trying to show my racist colleagues that I can do this. Actually, my mother was a domestic worker, but I can get a rating that's better than yours. But here's the thing, racists don't care. A racist will remain a racist. Whether you give 20% of your salary to student scholarship, whether you nail all the academic credentials that they, as academics, can't even fathom, whether you work from 4:30 to 8 at night like I did, racists don't care. They will remain racist. So the higher you go, the devil becomes more sophisticated. They become more complicated. They become actually even well-resourced. The attacks against you will become even more sophisticated, because now the devil owns newspapers. They have the paper and the pen endless. They own people who, I mean, it's no longer the small devil. So as you go up, the devil changes. The moment you become a leader, you become a target, and the higher you rise, the more complicated and well-resourced the attacks against you will become. Suddenly, your enemies are no longer individuals, but institutions, entire systems and forces with real influence and resources. When they say leadership is not for the thin-skinned, they know that political leadership is not for the normal-skinned. If there's anything like that, leadership requires high capacity for shame. I often say, don't take a leadership position if you don't have a high capacity for shame. Because you will be insulted, you'll be misrepresented, you'll be attacked, you'll be ridiculed. Sometimes over things you never even said or did. Or sometimes over your family or your children. Or, I mean, hello. The media will distort your words. And social media will exaggerate your flaws. You must be mentally and emotionally resilient enough to withstand all of it. If your primary concern as a leader is being liked, then you do not belong in leadership. And of course, it's still early. You can call it quits. Number 2, final point, power corrupts. Bantase, power. I know you may be sitting there and saying, Wazoo, I don't have power. You do. You are in the leadership of the EFF. And some of you are members of parliament. Some of you are in provincial structures or local government structures. So that's the second challenge of leadership. It's understanding that power is seductive. And if you are not intentional and disciplined, it will consume you. You'll be aware of the intoxicating nature of power, because history books have many pages of leaders who started with good intentions but became enemies of the people over time. Power does not corrupt instantly. It corrupts gradually. It starts with justifying small compromises. You start by rationalizing the tiniest betrayals of principle and normalizing the very things you once opposed. Today you compromise on one small thing, and tomorrow you do not even recognize yourself anymore. That is how systems of power have neutralized radical leaders and will continue to do so right here in our country. And perhaps to touch a bit on the influence of economic interests of leadership, know that if racists want to destroy a black leader, they will not use other races. They will use your own. Because people can be co-opted. Money is good, but it's dangerous. And people have more power when they've got money. And power is even more dangerous. A leader with power but without integrity is a danger to the people. A leader with power but without integrity will sell out the movement for personal survival. And a leader with power but without integrity will betray their comrades, their ideals, and their own conscience if the price is right. And this is why you should guard your integrity with everything you have. Do not let titles, resources, or influence change who you are. Do not let the temptation of power make you forget why you started leading in the first place, why you raised your hand and said, I'm willing to be nominated. Leadership is not about what you can get from it. It's about what you can give to it. This is why every leader must have people around them who are not afraid to tell them the truth. If everyone in your inner circle agrees with everything you say, then you have already lost your way. You must welcome critique. You must demand accountability. You must never become the kind of leader who only listens to voices that flatter you. Number 3, and that's the last. In leadership, there is no right or wrong answer, often. And this is the third challenge of leadership. It's understanding that there is no such thing as right or wrong decision, often in leadership, especially as you go higher. Things get complex. If there is one certainty in leadership, is that every decision will be contested by someone, especially in political leadership. There's always room for contestation. Some will applaud you, others will condemn you, and many will be neutral until they see which way the wind is blowing. But you must know and appreciate that decisions are contextual, and that is not possible to please everyone, ever. Leadership is not about perfection, and the leader is not always perfect. It is about conviction. You must make a decision, justify it, and stand by it. What's problematic is indecisiveness. That's what's problematic. And that's, in my view, one of the greatest weaknesses in leadership is indecisiveness. People who hold a big leadership position, but they are scared to make decisions. Some of the worst leaders in history were not those who made mistakes. It was those who feared making decisions at all. As a leader, you must have the courage to choose. And once you have chosen, you must be bold enough to defend that choice. Now you have made the choice not only to be in the EFF, but to be in the CCT, to be led by the CIC. Now, you're going to defend the cause, you're going to defend the movement, and you're going to defend the leadership. Congratulations and all the best for the work.